sorry. Yeah, you don't have to tape that. Anyway, the passage is 2 Corinthians 4, starting at verse 6 and going through verse 12. I'll be reading from the NIV. I don't know what page it is. And, I don't know if this is it. 2 Corinthians 4, 6 through 8. Now, yeah, there's a natural break at 7, but I got so intrigued with verse 6, we have to just start there. All right, it goes like this. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Christ. Yikes. That's saying a lot. It's like drawing a picture. For we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. We always carry around in our body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be revealed in our body. For we who are alive are always being given over to death for Christ's sake, for Jesus' sake, so that his life may be revealed in our mortal body. So then, death is at work in us, but life is at work in you. You know, the first part, when it goes about the shining, you can turn to, if you would like, to Genesis 1:3. I think it's verse 3. It's just it's just an amazing verse. It was not hard to find grace in this passage, let me tell you. But so Genesis 1. Verse 3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the dark. He called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Jesus died and was risen, his life, he introduced a new covenant, a covenant that's written on our hearts. And what this symbolizes is that God is giving us the first part of creation. The very first thing he created was light. And we have an opportunity to show that light. But that's the first thing. It signifies that a new covenant has come. That's why that is there. Now, I want to say a couple of things about this about this chapter. One about Corinth. Corinth, Paul visited on his third missionary journey. His second missionary journey. Now, there's some confusion because there's a 1 Corinthians and a 2 Corinthians. It's probably obvious, that's why they're called 2 Corinthians. But anyway, there's two. But apparently, more letters were written that are lost. And some of the way it's written is disjointed, and scholars wonder if maybe they pieced a wrong letter together or something. You know, so it's a little hard to say. But in AD 50, he established a church in Corinth. And that was quite a feat just in itself. Corinth was not exactly, it was Sin City. You know, it was popular because it had a narrow piece of land between two large land masses. So people could port their boat here and then bring it across this, and there's a name for it. I can't pronounce it. I can't even spell it. But anyway, it's it's a narrow way through, and then go and leave from that port, so they don't have to take a 200-mile journey around Greece. So, I mean, some of that's a little fuzzy, but anyway, that's what made it so. So you can imagine that city was bustling. Yet it was only erected 56 years ago in AD 56, President. AD 156, or I'm sorry, 146, it was destroyed. The city was destroyed, and then a governor from a Roman governor rebuilt it, and so it had only been around for 56 years, and it was bustling. 700,000 people lived in Corinth. But it was a tough one. They had the worst part is that they had a monument to a god named Aphrodite. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I need to go any further than that. I mean that's what drew people. There were 1,000 different options, and it was a terrible thing. And yet Paul was able to go into that kind of community. See, now Paul is an earthen vessel. Now I don't know where I got the word earthen vessel. Was always in my mind, but they call it something different. And this is the NIV, so I'm sure anyway, I'm going to stick with earthen vessel because I like that better. But earthen vessel, and we have a earthen vessel too. But I was thinking, having an earthen vessel just seems, why do we just have to have an earthen vessel? I mean, all an earthen vessel was clay. They would make clay. Maybe it reminded me of paper plates and styrofoam cups, and today. It's sort of like that. I mean, if it broke, you just threw it out. I mean, it's like it's worthless, almost, right? And now he's describing himself, and at this point in his life, he's gone through a lot. Been beaten and stoned even, and yet he's surviving, and he's still with the gospel. He's as strong as ever. He's that, but we all are. We all are just an earthen vessel. And what's hard about that, well, it reminds me of my kids when they were really young. You would buy them, and maybe you can relate to this, you would buy them a present, they would open up the present, take whatever was in the present out, and start playing with the box. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was just, that was a stage they went to. And it started thinking to me, see, they were playing with the package. They weren't interested in the gift. And that, I think, is something that stays with us into adulthood, but with a lot higher consequences. Because we want to adorn ourselves. In fact, there might be a beautiful vase in the house that you see as an earthen vessel. And it's a beautiful vase, it's painted nice, it's got beautiful flowers, and you just think to yourself, why do I have to just sit here like that? I mean, I'm trying to keep up with the jars or whatever, because we all want to adorn ourselves. And we all want to buy the package. And by package, I mean your whole life. Things that are just extra stuff that you just don't need that much of. And God put His light into our earthen vessels. And He did that so that we can be a light to other nations, to other people, just like He did with Israel, be a light to other people. And if we try to put too much adornment on our earthen vessel, we're going to cover up the light. So it's important to know, what we're doing. It's terrible. Somebody, I read a story the other day. This man worked really, really hard to become the vice president of a bank. He finally reached his goal, And he found out he really didn't like the job. You know, he didn't take the time maybe to just listen to God, what God wanted him to do. You know, and so it's the old problem where you climb the ladder, but it's on the wrong wall. You know, and that's what he did. He climbed the ladder and found out he needed to be at a different wall. Of course, it's hard to change, but I think that using your imagination, you can add that element to the work you do now. Is partly my point too. So you know, if you think about it, how is what I'm doing serving the kingdom of God? And I don't think you have to think that hard, and you'll come up with something. So it doesn't mean you have to change jobs or anything. Maybe it's just reframing it and making it your vocation instead of just a job. But those were the kind of things that were going on. But you see, when we're in these fragile clay earthen vessels, it says here we get knocked around. We are pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. And we're in earthen vessels that they couldn't handle that. It's only through the fact that God's light was in them that they were able to survive that kind of abuse. And he's talking about himself too here, but it applies to all of us, because in our own ways we suffer, and it's just what brought this whole thing to the head, though, was that, and they would go back to Corinth, but Paul was getting a lot of bad press, so to speak, because there were people coming in to try and overtake the community, and they were dressed nice. They had diplomas. They had they spoke as if they could do miracles, or they had experienced these great spiritual experiences. They said, now that qualifies us for being priest or being your leader. Why would you want a leader who's weak like Paul? And it's interesting how Paul answers that, because he answers it by saying, you know, they're right. All I am is an earthen vessel. But I'm an earthen vessel so that I can reveal the glory of God. And when you reveal the glory of God, we gain the strength of God. But he says, but that's not really his point. His point is that in my weakness, you could see God. And that was his way of explaining it. So the weaker, the more the light shines. Now why the suffering, I don't know. But oftentimes it does bring us closer to God. I guess sometimes it can separate us too. And but God is always with us, and that's the beauty of it. I'm thinking of this man. This is a story I heard. I'm thinking of this man. He was a carpenter. He was robust, good shape, and so on. And he had stomach cancer. And, you know, he was kept alive for a while, but toward the end, you know, his body was all, I mean, it was just he could hardly recognize it. He had lost weight and just didn't look good. You know, his earthen vessel was really struggling. In fact, it was about to be thrown out, right, you know. But, so this pastor goes up there, and he doesn't know what to say. What's he going to say to this guy? But it turns out, when he visits this guy, this cancer victim, he does the encouragement. He shows the light. In his broken vessel, he shows the light. He says, I've seen God. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home. I want to be with Jesus. See, now there's a earthen vessel that's empowered by God's light. It's a perfect example of how we can show our light. In weaknesses, we can show it in our strengths too. But what I would like to sort of just challenge you with this week is try to write down one thing you do for every day for a week that shows the light of your earthen vessel. And of course that's about humility and recognizing our likeness to others, no matter what kind of people they are. But can you show the light? It just has to be one person. And try and do it for a week. Write it down. If you don't like to write it down, then go ahead and don't write it down. You know, but if you want to, you can. But anyway, so that's my challenge, and I want to end with the grace that comes out of all of this. He says, therefore, do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, and for what is unseen is eternal. So we always have something to look forward to. Even if we're earthen vessels, we have something to look forward to. And you know, an earthen vessel, that clay, that's made from God. I wonder if we get to heaven and clay is like gold, you know, because that's how he made us, you know. But he's active in our world. And we have somebody who's with us, and we can experience the life of salvation today and in the future. Amen. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you that I'm a earthen vessel, that my main purpose is to be a light, not to have all the flash on the exterior. Just stay earthen and have your light shining so others can see that we love them, that we're not scared of them, that we believe in them, we encourage them, patience, all these different ways to let our light shine. May our light shine in darkness and dispel that, and may we come to see how important it is that our light shines, so we better not get too much stuff and block it off. For Jesus' sake, amen.
Amen.